are live.
and everything. It was great. It was awesome.
Sorry, that was a little louder. I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, it was neat because it wasn't like the same fish over and over.
Did
It was
you?
a different type every single time.
I've
It
gone
was
all
great.
day.
It was fun. How are you, Rich?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
A little rushed.
Oh yeah.
Trying to do too many things at one time, I think. Just 182, right?
It is 181 and 182.
181.
Yeah, we still have 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
So you weren't too far off. You're still good. You're still early.
I'm in there.
Did you need water?
Yeah, I'm gonna run back and get one. I left the pump sitting on the driveway, I think.
It's like me this morning. I was like, coffee. Left it right at home with water.
I've done that.
I got to work like, oh, that would have been so good.
181 is the one for Bear Blueberry, right? Yeah. 182.
It's both. One is to accept the zone options.
Do we have sign-up sheets out there? We do.
Yeah, I haven't gone back and got it yet. Is everybody signed in? Who's want to see it?
I must be going far, you're going to say cyber. That's what I was gonna read. The fire. Yeah, you have the police.
So I have to abstain. I have to abstain from that.
And this is our third reading.
Yeah, but I'm just making sure that I'm abstaining.
Oh yeah, so it's 81 and 82.
Hey Rex, did you ever find that plan, document? Did you look for it?
Do you have that, please?
Yeah, Josh.
You have it, please?
So it's just floodplains.
Got it on there, okay.
Gotta get some stuff passed.
I know there's a deadline to some things too. So.
Yeah. That's just floodplains. So far, that's all you found.
But if we keep, can I,
Yeah,
that's not
right
what I
where the
was-
curtain opens.
Not what I was hoping to find.
Yeah. I'd like to welcome everyone to London City Council meeting. If you will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Clerk, could you please take our roll call?
Councilman Eads,
Here.
Councilman Peters, Councilman Robinson,
Here.
Councilman Hayes,
Present.
Councilman Hitt,
Here.
Councilman Stoll,
Present.
President Combs.
Present. All right, everyone had a chance to take a look at our minutes from our July 6th meeting. Any corrections or discussion? All right, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. This evening, we do have a public hearing, so I'd like a motion to enter our public hearing.
I make a motion to enter into public hearing.
Second.
All right, clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads,
Yes.
Councilman Robinson,
Yes.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Hitt,
Yes.
Councilman Stoll.
Yes.
Okay, we have now entered our public hearing at 6:31, and we have ordinance 18123, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 181-23, sponsored by Henry Comer, an ordinance amending official zoning map.
Okay, and I think we do have a gentleman here this evening to speak. Would you like to speak? Thank you.
Well, Council members, thank you again for listening to us discuss the exciting prospects of this project. I will try not to be redundant, but for a key few areas. Central Ohio is a growing market. London gets to choose to be a part of that growth or otherwise. Obviously, City Council and the city at large is very dependent on property tax and income tax, both which will benefit immensely. This particular project will generate $8 million in the first 10 years of its existence. Have had the opportunity to listen to and talk with many neighbors in the project, and I understand that growth is scary for many people and change is even scarier. But as I kind of reflect on the last month of public feedback, I think to my days when I first started this same process for the Bluebird retirement community back in 2013 or 2014, and there was fear, there was trepidation, there was all kinds of alarm bells ringing, and I think Bluebird's proven to be a very good addition to the London community, not only in providing care for our senior citizens, but providing a substantial number of jobs, all of which contribute to income tax to the city. The property tax is a substantial increase over what it was. And then I look forward to the same process when we went through and opened the butcher block. Everybody questioned why such a massive structure, why such a big restaurant, why such a nice place for London, Ohio, because I think London should pride itself on being a destination location and a place that people want to come. That particular restaurant has contributed, again, in many ways, sales tax, income tax. Many jobs are present at that restaurant. It brings a lot of activity in. I think any of you who've had the opportunity to come in and see it for yourself and see the parking lot on a Friday or Saturday night, in particular, see that it brings lots of commerce to the city. For all the years that I've lived in this community, people would say, why can't we keep a restaurant? Why can't we keep, every time you'd get something open, you'd see it closed not long after there. I think most recently of Rothwell's, and what a blessing that was to our community, and then it didn't quite have the revenue to pick up. Our small businesses in this community need growth. They can't survive, and it's not just the restaurant, it's not just assisted living, it's the Dwyer's hardware store, it's Allscapes Management, it's every small business in this community needs these projects to sustain and to grow. And so when I think of all of the feedback that we got prior to opening the butcher block, many of you were here to witness and hear that personally. I think it's been nothing but a proven success for the community. And then most recently, Sovereign Village. I came in today and flew over that area, and it was just incredible to watch the number of rooftops and the amount of activity. We started a massive media campaign that is specifically advertising London, Ohio, and that's one of the big questions. Why London, Ohio? I said, why don't you come out to London, Ohio and see how you like it compared to downtown Columbus? Because we've got a charming town, we've got a wonderful city, but it needs vibrance too, right? We can't live in a bubble, we can't live in a cocoon, and so I'm especially proud of the projects that we've done previously, and just going through this process was sort of reminiscence of all the concern, and I just say, let the track record guide you this evening. I'm very proud of the project that we did, London Landing, or Brooks Edge at London Landing, which was like really the phase 3 of Brooks Edge. The market's telling you that London's a place that people want to be, that they want to call their home. The superintendent of schools is very supportive of this project. They actually need the project for their future, for their growth, same way the small businesses need it. As I listened to and reflected on the feedback that residents brought to this community, lots of people said, what about water? What about sewer? What about infrastructure? And I say, yes, what about it? Those things take money, don't they? Right? Those things take cash infusions. This particular project is going to, just in tap fees, is going to generate $2 million for the Board of Public Utilities. $2 million. Unarguable by any measure. $500,000 of that is largely already collected just from what we did at the first phase of London Landing. So how do we fix the water and the sewer infrastructure? Through projects like these. Frankly, through projects like Pulte's, right? Like those things fund the infrastructure that we need. Ratepayers in London know that we recently got a rate increase from the Board of Public Utilities. Why did that increase come? Because there was inadequate funding. So the whole city should welcome the new sources of revenue that help fund this and take some of that burden off of those residents. I was pleased to see that the Congressman Kerry allocated some money for a new police force, so congratulations on that, or not police force, but police building, so congratulations on that. But those things wouldn't happen if they didn't see London as a growth community, right? Madison County did really well in this federal budget because they see it as a growth area. The infrastructure for the county, the infrastructure for the city, those things don't happen by accident. And finally, people have talked about density. I just came back this evening from my ranch in Nebraska. I've grown up my entire life as a farmer and a rancher. I own cattle, I own land, all of it in agricultural use, and agricultural use and land preservation matters to me. It should matter to everyone here. It should matter to every American. There is no better way to manage ag land preservation than through higher density housing that is proving to be what the consumer wants. People don't want the 5-acre lot anymore. They don't want to care for it, right? They want to invest in their home. They don't want to invest in their lawnmower. And so the density that's questioned in some of these areas is only good for ag land preservation. We don't want to take 1,000 acres to build 100 or 200 homes if we can do it on 100 acres, if you will, right? So that is just good, sound policy. I put my trust and confidence in council to see the big picture, to look past, some of the, some of the folks that frankly I don't know how to appease, because everything I've tried to do is that then there's one more thing. I appreciate you looking at the numbers. I looking at the impact of the other local businesses, looking at the impact of how this is going to help fund all residents through the Board of Public Utilities and so forth, and I'll be happy to address any questions if there are any, or I'll take my seat.
Any questions? Questions?
Well, I'll have Mr. Gross, I've been asked by Mr. Cavey to speak during the public hearing, but he did have a question that if I ask it now, you won't have to come back up on my behalf.
I'm happy to do it whenever it best suits the council.
Well, I would actually prefer that if you hear if you hear everyone out, then maybe you come back up and address anybody's concerns.
That sounds very good.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
I thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, and go ahead. Yes.
For the public hearing itself?
Yes, for the public hearing
Okay.
itself.
Was there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak during the public hearing portion? I think you did, ma'am.
for the public hearing portion? Okay.
I
Yeah,
can.
because I have you here for audience concerns. Is this the same thing? Would you like to do it now or during audience concerns? Either one?
Doesn't matter when.
Okay. You could go ahead on up, ma'am. Thank you.
Elizabeth Branson, 500 Graceland Avenue, London, Ohio. I've said about everything I needed to say about concerns regarding this entire project, but I will readdress my concerns for the future. Of course, my biggest concern is the future possibility of flooding if the plan does not work. When we say such things as, well, we really don't know what could happen if we get a washout rain that lasts for 2 or 3 days. So, we have no guarantee that the drainage we are paying for now and is working may not work in the future housing drainage plans. If our drainage problem is solved now and then floods in the future because of housing, we're going to be really mad. And I want to address something that took place at the very beginning of our drainage project. Before it was ever agreed upon, Mr. Castle promised a group of us that there would never be any water put in our drainage system from any source except water running off the natural land. That was promised to us. So, if we have retention ponds fail and they overflow, we're going to have the same flooding problem we had before and maybe worse. I don't know why that was promised to us, but now it has changed apparently. So we're very concerned about the drainage if the retaining ponds and the other sources do not hold back the water. Of course, there's other concerns, the potential traffic danger and the excess traffic. That's definitely going to be a problem. Last but not least is the types of housing for the future project. In conclusion, and I'm wondering why we're rushing this through. It isn't going to supposedly start till next spring. What's the hurry? I believe that we should have more discussion and more planning, the planning committee get involved in more of the facts of all of this, rather than just say, well, you know, we're hoping for this and maybe this and what if this. What's the hurry? Why can't we have definite, for sure answers of what's going to happen with the drainage and the traffic and so forth? What is the hurry? Why can't we put this on hold and have some more discussion and some more meetings about this? Because I don't think we have covered it all. In conclusion, on a personal neighborhood request, I'm requesting that the sign on Mariemont Avenue that reads, "This road may flood," be removed. We're paying to not flood. We have not flooded, and we don't intend to flood. If you don't have the authority to remove this sign, please tell me who does. The sign takes down our property value and sends a bad message. All the drainage correction done needs to send the message that the problem is solved. And I would hope that you could give me an answer on whether you can make a decision on this sign or who else I need to go to discuss this with.
First of all, I'd like to address a couple of things that you brought up. You brought up about flooding and the possibility of flooding and the projects coming in and causing all these issues. In our last meeting, we actually heard from an actual engineer who told us a little bit of the process of how they calculate the water that's going to come off of the rooftops and how they calculate the sizes of the retention ponds. I guarantee you the water that's in those retention ponds are going to be water that comes from the sky, just like anywhere else. And if there is a severe flood, I don't think there will be anything that anybody can do about it, no matter how good their drainage systems are. I don't think they could do anything about it in Columbus or anything if we have a severe flood, which we've seen in the past few years. I'm not sure if you could even create an infrastructure that would be feasible to handle some of the rain that we've seen in the most recent years. Now, when it comes to your signage, Rex, is that something that we would need to have there for safety? Because there would be the possibility of flooding, no matter what type of drainage system you have there?
If I'm not mistaken, before any development or anything was done, that was a natural ditch line. And because of that, the way the land is contoured, yes, we put in the drainage tiles and so forth to bypass that in as many conditions as possible. But if you get a torrential type rain, you know, those tiles are only so big, they can only handle so much capacity. And I'm thinking that we have to leave those in there because of the way that land was prior to development, because there was a ditch line that ran through there. I don't know if we can make it any, you know, less intrusive or not, but I'm pretty sure that's the reason it was put in there, because that was a ditch line. I don't think it was, well, ditch line, water runs to it. I'll have to check and see. I don't know, but because of the way that land was contoured prior to development, I don't know if it will allow me to do that. I want to just reiterate something that you said about, I said there would be no land taken. I don't know that I said off that natural field. I just said there shouldn't be anything going in those except what comes off that field. Well, if the field's developed, it's still the same land, it's still the same rain, it's still the same water. It's going to take any kind of runoff. I don't think that your engineers, not all the runoff off this properties would be going that direction. Some of it's going to be going a different direction. So not all the rain that's coming off there now will be coming that way. They've got it laid out to where some of it's going to be going even a different direction to help alleviate runoff coming in your way.
But if it did come our way and caused flooding or goes into our project that's taking care of the drainage, then we're actually paying to have the drainage taken care of for the rest of the field, for the project. We're paying for.
That was what it was put in for initially, was to take the rain off that field. Just because it's developed, it's still the same scenario. That's water that's going to be coming off of that land. Let's quit saying field. It's going to be developed, but it's going to be land. If it's undeveloped, it's still land. It's just in field form. Water has to go somewhere. It's going to flow downstream. And unfortunately, because you are in that ditch line, you're downstream from that field. So we want to divert that. If we don't take it into yours, I don't know, how we would get around it, to be honest with you.
That's our concern.
Well, they will have to divert that into the drain so that it's going to come off naturally, just like it does now, since we put those drainage systems in. I personally, I don't like to put my neck in, I'll probably get a torrential rain. I'll have to eat my words, but I personally feel like that it's going to be a better scenario than what you have now, because now they're going to control those rains with the retention ponds. From the retention ponds, they're going to be using a certain size tile so that they don't overflow you downstream. They're going to let that out slowly. Am I right or wrong?
That's correct.
So,
Well,
they're not in business to flood somebody, their neighbors, or anybody downstream. As engineers, their main objective is to control those rains that hits their development, to control it and have it run off just like it would a normal rain, not a torrential rain. They're going to hold the rooftop and the streets, water in the retention ponds, and as it fills, then it's gonna go through pipe that goes into your drains so that they don't overburden your drains.
Well, I know that when he talks about Mr. Cavey, he's going to further address what I'm concerned about also. So I'm hoping you'll listen carefully to what he has to say also. We talked today, and I don't want to overstep what he said, but anyway, I hope all this works the way you're saying. I hope
will.
that it does, but you have to understand our concerns. We're paying out to not be flooded.
Exactly.
And when we initially agreed to do this, we asked what the future projects were going to be in that field, and we were told that at that time that they didn't have a plan for anything, that
You're
was,
absolutely correct. I had no idea whatsoever that that land was gonna be developed.
you didn't know ahead of time.
No.
Okay.
Then, well, sorry, went out of my head. I was gonna say something else, but sorry. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you. All I can tell you is what I've been told. And just like you're not an engineer, Mr. Cavey's not an engineer. We have to rely on people that's their specialty to design and do things the way they're supposed to. And that's what we do. And whenever they get this done, we will send it through a second company to address and look and make sure that their calculations match what our engineers say too. So it's not just gonna be them saying so. Whenever they get their final plan developed, it'll go to our civil engineer, and they will review the floodplain also.
We've been so pleased with these last rains that we've had, and we have had zero flooding. It's just been such a blessing, a God-sent blessing, and we surely don't want to see that undone and wake up to a rain where we're flooding like we did before and worse. That would be the worst nightmare, and it would make us angry. It would make us angry.
It would not make me happy either. I'm glad you're not getting any flooding. That was the whole intent, and it's the intent for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in regards to, rushing the project through, I think this is our third reading here in council on this, as well as this public hearing we have, and it's already gone through even planning committee. So I think it's gone through several other committees here in council. So I think we've met on quite a few meetings and had quite a few hours of discussion put into this project. And I would say in no way, shape, or form has it been rushed through at all. No project has been. Mr. Eads?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I was asked by Mr. Stan Cavey, who served on London City Council for many years and Board of Public Utilities, to speak for him tonight. He is a resident of Graceland Avenue. The points I'm about to bring up were conveyed to me by Mr. Cavey today. This will be the question you can answer later, and it's first, not last, thankfully. The posted sign on London Landing states that homes are priced from $250,000 and up, while Mr. Gross stated that the homes sold so far average $350,000. How many of the proposed 66 homes will be 16 square foot homes or at a lower price point? I would like this to be answered later when Mr. Gross or Arbor Homes speaks. Number two, what is the drainage plan for Phase 2? Does it consider the land north of the development that already naturally drains to this area? The retention ponds are only planned to handle the water coming from the development. As brought up at an earlier meeting, Bill Long, the street superintendent, was out to check drainage earlier this year, and the flow of water made it hard for him to stay on his feet. This is the water that already drains from the fields. He wanted to make that point. The mayor and safety service director both promised the residents of Graceland and Marymount that the storm sewer that the residents were helping pay for would not be accessed by anyone else. The 66 homes that are in question tonight for Phase 2 are being built on what was a wetlands before. Number 5, why is City Council going to allow for a planned unit development when there are already building codes in place? An R2, R3, or R4 zoning designation would be appropriate. Having a PUD will allow the builder to do whatever they want. Number 6, why wasn't the Planning Commission or its chairman, why haven't they been to City Council to explain the planning that has taken place or explain why there is a lack of planning for water and traffic that includes Phase 2 that is being considered tonight? And finally, as a past London City Council member, there were times where plans were not approved if City Council did not think they were properly planned. City Council should slow the process down and make sure that it is properly planned. So that is Mr. Cavy's statement. And then, Mr. Gross, if you're going to address this or anyone else, I have an additional question, just is, and I asked Rex, and I'll make sure I get the right answer tonight. Retention pond, was there already a retention pond put in place for phase one? Or has there been, will that also serve phase two, or is there going to be a retention pond built as that is started so that that water automatically runs off to that and not just retention ponds later? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Eads. I've got a number of things to just address here. So first off, with respect to Graceland, let me give you just some perspective and some history, right? Graceland, when it was developed, is built on the bottom of a hill, okay? That's why they've had so much flooding problems for all this time. They're built on the bottom of the hill. There was no retention put in place. There was no planning put in place. I don't know if Mr. Cavey was a councilman at that point in time, but it was nothing like the process that developers go through today. I can assure you of that, right? Like, this is a very different process. So the homes in question there are the ones that did it without planning, without retention ponds, without care for the drainage that goes down onto their neighbors and all of the things that happen there. So when the discussed drainage that was just recently put in, all that drainage is on my property. It's not on Miss Branson's property. It's not on Stan Cavey's property. It's on Paul Gross's property. And I did that as a good neighbor, as a willing participant to help solve a drainage issue. When I first walked out and met Miss Branson for the first time, she told me in a very direct fashion that my agricultural use land should have retention ponds on it because my water is going downhill. And I explained that all water goes downhill and that those houses were built at the bottom of the hill, and it's really not, nothing. That's the nature, that's the natural flow of the watershed, okay? As we went through this and we begin our plans for this didn't happen in a month. It didn't happen in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. This has been a dynamic process where I go around and I talk to the residents of Graceland and Marymount and others. And they said, you know what, we'd really like it to not come through our neighborhood. Now, if you go on Graceland, you'll see that it's stubbed on both sides of my property. When it's stubbed, it means that it was always designed and intended to continue to go in both directions. They had compelling reasons why they didn't want it to come through Graceland, even though that afforded me another access to 56, and it was completely within my legal right because those stubs are actually on my property. I, in the spirit of being a good neighbor, put retention ponds there to make sure that it was never going to go through their neighborhood because they said, hey, we don't have sidewalks and our kids play on those streets and we do this. So an incredible amount of deference has been paid to the residents on Graceland, and it seems like no matter how much deference, right, that I do as a landowner, it's never enough. So when the drainage was going in last year, I allowed it to go on my land. We found that the actual lot line that was, the visual lot line was nothing close to what the actual real lot line was by a professional surveyor, someone who's paid and licensed by the state of Ohio to determine where the actual border is, right? And Mr. Cavey and Ms. Branson and many others are encroaching on, their yards encroach well on my real estate, my property, buildings right up to it, the trees that came through. And when we learned that at the time of installation, Mr. Long will tell you, he said, Paul, it looks like our property line is way over here, and that's going to be a problem. I said, you know what? I don't want the neighbors to tear out their trees. I don't want to disrupt their yards. I don't want to make this agonizing for them. Let's move it over and place this farther onto my land than what was agreed to in the easement and so forth to be a good neighbor. Again, consideration after consideration after consideration is given to the folks at Graceland, and if you look at the plan and the map, it does not have any adverse effect to them at all, because when they asked for the drainage to be on my land, I allowed it. When they asked for me to not cut down their trees to put the said construction in, I allowed it. When they asked for it not to connect with their neighborhood, I paid money out of my pocket to my engineer and said, no, we're not going to change that. He said, well, we want another exit so that we can get out on 56. I said, I understand, but I want to be a good neighbor. I want to eliminate this. And if you listen to some of the testimony, you'd think I'm Satan reincarnated, right? It's not reflective of all those facts. I would tell you, when it comes to drainage, I'm not a civil engineer, but I own lots of ground and I hire lots of civil engineers to look at this. I don't create any more rain as a landowner. There will be not one more drop of rain created as a result of having housing or whether it's agricultural. It's the same amount of rain, okay? Ms. Branson came in and said, I don't know if this drainage plan will work. Well, our county engineer, who is a civil engineer, designed this plan. I said, you got to have confidence in a civil engineer. Today, she raves about how well the plan is working, and we hope we don't unend it. 6 months ago, there was questions even after its installation as to whether it was going to work, right? So we've got to just operate off of facts and not some of that hyperbole. With respect to Mr. Cavey's concern about land to the north, that's land, as you know, that's owned by the state penitentiary, okay? That water all comes through my property, through their property. That's the natural flow of the watershed. They should have probably done more there because there is a considerable amount of water that comes from them. But that is the way the cookie crumbles, right? Like, that is happening. It's not my obligation. It's not Ms. Branson's obligation. It's not anybody's obligation. It is an adjoining landowner to solve their problems. And those are a problem that was taken into account, by the way, with the current drainage plan. So when it's an ag field, all of this rain comes rushing down and goes where the water will go, right? Path of least resistance, downhill, through the swale, wherever the path of least resistance is, it goes there. When houses are built, the Ohio EPA requires us to capture that rain, to grab it, and to store it, and to slow it, and then to slowly release the rain or the water flow, the precipitation, so that it goes out in a measured and a controlled manner. And all of the civil engineers, they're required to do that by law, and there are specific formulas. So I hire a civil engineer that does that. Mr. Castle's entirely correct. You don't trust my civil engineer or any other civil engineer. So there's something called a building process, right? And it's got to go through this process. And if the calculations don't match up perfectly, they throw that stack of papers back and say, nope, your calculations are wrong. It's not going to release the flow of water in a slow and controlled and measured fashion. So this is checked and double-checked and rechecked again. So that's the reality of it. You all aren't approving that today. You're approving a land use and a zoning change from one form of residential to another form of residential. Unlike Mr. Cavey's request or statement on this public record that the builder and the landowner can do anything they want once it's PUD, that's complete and utter nonsense. This approval here does allow for more creativity in the development process and planning and so forth, but I can't do anything with it other than create a responsible plan within the city's requirements that gets submitted to the building department, and the building department makes sure that it's something that it goes through planning, and it'll go safety services, and it'll go lots of places before anything can actually be built on that particular property. So this is not just, it's not over today by any stretch of anyone's imagination, right? There's a thorough process in place that is very onerous on the developer and the builder's standpoint. So that's important information. With regard to the comment that was shared on this public record here this evening from Ms. Branson that this isn't going to happen until spring, I promise and I attest here in front of all of you on this public record that was never said. The reality is that we are in a hurry, and we are in a hurry because on March 17th I sold Arbor Homes 61 lots. They've got all but 6 of those sold and spoken for, and if you go back there you see lots of construction. That construction equates to the $500,000 in tap fees and the subsequent $1.5 million in tap fees that will come as a result of this project, not to mention the income tax, not to mention the property tax, not to mention the revenue for the schools and all the other good that comes from it. So folks, what we have here is success, right? And we ought not be afraid of success. We ought to be concerned by Rothwell's closing. We shouldn't be concerned about success within our community. I would submit to you we haven't seen this level of success for as long as I've lived in the community. But we never once said this is going to be a spring of next year. We intend to move on the next 66 lots immediately after approval here. Now, there's a process that we just explained, so it's not like it's tomorrow. It's got to go through that same building process and so forth. But keep in mind that when we took this in front of planning, which, you know, they said this process was rushed, the first non-rush part of it is we went to planning. Planning approved it after 2 meetings in front of them. Then after planning approved it, it went to safety, safety council, safety services, whatever. Safety services approved it. Then it came before council. You had 1, 2, 3 meetings. This is the third and hopefully final meeting on this. So this has been a very elongated, very thoughtful, very deliberative, non-rushed process. And again, one of the things that they said is, hey, we can support the next 66 lots, and we will, the way the ordinance is written, change the zoning for everything. But after the 66, we're going to pause, and we're going to do a safety study, a traffic study. We're going to make sure that all of these other things, and then we have to go through a process again to go beyond the 66. So the 66 is real important because there's a market need that's being addressed, and we don't want to stop that momentum and push people there, because I know from talking to Arbor Homes, you can't just build and then hang out in their model home with no other property to sell. They have to move on to a different community. I don't think that's in anyone's interest as far as that's concerned. With respect to the I don't know if I hit Mr. Cavey's question. I wrote him down here. I know he had a question about the house pricing. So houses there on their sign say, what's the number again, Mr. Councilman Eads?
He asked me specifically that starting at 250, your sign was like from 250, maybe up to 350, but you've also stated that the average sale price was, he stated 350. I thought you said 360.
I did say 360, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. And then how many of these are going to be smaller homes?
Yep.
The 1,600 square foot home, or at a lower price point?
So
This being the PUD.
Yeah. And if I get it wrong, Michael Marinangeli with Arbor Homes is the actual builder. I'm just the developer. So I get them a finished lot, and they do the hard work of getting it built and getting it sold and making sure that they've got a quality product out there. So if I get it wrong, he can kick me and come up and correct the record. So they have homes that start at $250,000. At the point in time, they've sold more homes since then, so the average could, fluctuate with what the home buyers want. But at the point in time that we initiated this process, their average sales price was $360,000, which meant that the buyers of these homes were asking for, they have, I think, 11 or more different options, different footprints, and they are gravitating towards the high end of the scale, right? So they can get a home, I think the highest was $400,000 and some thousand. They don't limit it to $350,000. If you want to spend a little bit more, they'll take and get you as nice a home as you want for the money that you can afford. But there's not a change in the footprint or the offering with this next phase. It's the exact same offering that's gone in there, so it's reasonable and safe to bet that what you're going to see is an average home sales price of $360,000 or more, because these homes will be built a year from now or 6 months from now when the actual home is built, which is different than the development being done. And there's inflationary pressures, and lumber might cost more, and labor certainly will cost more, and so forth. So this is not cheapening what's happening there. And again, the $360,000 is some $90,000 higher than the average sales price in the City of London for the last 12 months. So it is a nice product that is being warmly received by the buyers. I believe I answered his question.
I believe you probably did. Thank you. Was already a retention pond in place for phase one?
There is, okay, yes. I didn't have that one written down. There is a retention pond for phase one. Phase one was oversized. So in other words, through those same calculations, when you build a retention pond, if you're building 60 homes, you could build one this big, or you can build one this big. And so when we did phase one, we built it this big in anticipation for future development. So there is a retention pond that has been oversized that will have adequate capacity to serve this next tranche, the 66 homes. But then new retention ponds would be needed to develop, needed to be created to manage, the rest of the development once we get the traffic study done and we get, the ability to kind of move through the process for that. So for the next kind of comparable phase to what we just did. The retention pond has been oversized, and so it has the capacity to handle all of that, and that's why it's a part of the plat and so forth. And then just one other thing that came into question, you never break the watershed, right? So God decides which way the water's going to flow. Mother Nature takes care of all that. You don't break the watershed. We're not breaking the watershed. There's going to be no water from a watershed that would go, towards Jacob Lane that now goes towards Graceland. The watershed is there, and then you retain it inside of that watershed and then capture it and slowly release it. Now, that said, if we have a 10-inch rain tomorrow, they're in a spot in this city that isn't going to be affected by it, right? It's not a miracle process. It looks at how often does something happen in 100 years or 500 years and things of that nature, and you can always get events like just was suffered in Pennsylvania in Bucks County earlier this week where they got hit by a storm that was bigger than Sandy, Hurricane Sandy. So there's just no way to handle that no matter who you are, and that's got nothing to do with the development or whether it was a farm field or whether there's homes. But it will definitely be an improvement from what's there today because there's no retention where Graceland is concerned. There's no retention where Graceland is concerned at all. The retention that is there that is oversized is over by Jacob Lane, and it's got the eye towards the next phase of the 66 lots in the plan that's been outlined in this ordinance.
Any further questions?
No, sir.
All right. And again, I'd like to thank you for bringing this project to London. And like you mentioned earlier, the success that you've already had within the city. You've already, gone through the process through several different projects that have shown to be successful, even though you face some of the same questions and the same issues before, but they've shown to be successful. And then I would wonder if we're going to have future developers or coming into the city that are going to be as scrutinized as someone that has already proven success in the city.
Henry, I appreciate those comments, but I think I win the popularity contest.
All right. Yes.
Just one thing, I want to direct council.
Can you pull the mic towards you?
The microphone.
Councilman Cavey, I'm assuming this ordinance was in effect whenever he was a councilman. But if you look at Code 1262, it talks about the timetable of whenever an applicant files for the zoning change to a PUD. There's set timetables that has to be met by planning. Then there's certain set timetables that has to be met by council. We are following that timetable that's listed. So we're not rushing, we're not going any faster, we're following what the code says we're supposed to do.
All right. Thank you.
And I would just opine on that. If you develop a plan 30 years ago, okay, and it seemed logical 30 years ago, and you watch your city grow, and you see where trends come in, and you see where activity happens and so forth, it would be completely illogical to say, I was so right 30 or 50 years ago, I'm going to stay rigid in my belief that I'm never going to make a change no matter what the facts present. And I had an experience like that when I was county commissioner. Beck Seed Corn came in. Beck Seed Corn wanted to build a $6.5 million facility. Much like this project, they asked for $0 of tax abatement. All that was going to happen is the city schools were going to get a massive increase over their farmland. Your CAUV to having a $6.5 million building on it. And one of the township trustees came in and protested and brought another and came in and protested. Well, our planning, which was dated back in the 80s, said that's agricultural ground. Well, if you look at Beck Seeds, I'd say they're a pretty agricultural company. They run food plots and they've got corn and soybeans, and yes, they process and bag some of those and they sell it, and they're next to Ohio State and so forth. And you know what we did logically? We said, we're not going to be so rigid to not look at the opportunity in front of us. Not only has Beck's been a great partner that's employed lots of people and contribute lots of money to our local school district, but it was a year later that they made a $1 million donation to the Ohio State University for clean water initiatives and so on and so forth. Had we driven them out of town because we were unwilling to look at the facts and the opportunities, we'd have lost, the state would have lost, the schools would have lost, and it's only logical to make amendments to a zoning plan, because that's all done on a whiteboard, right? With the best of intentions, but without knowing what the opportunities are in any particular way. So I think it's a bit unrealistic to think that we should be so rigid to never adjust and take advantage of the market opportunities in front of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. On to Resolution 18223, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the
Pardon
resolution.
me?
Yes.
Probably need a motion to leave the,
No, this,
Public
we're
hearing?
still, that's
We're s-
part of the public hearing.
That's
oh,
part of
that
the
is going to be part of
Yes.
the public hearing, not old business?
No, that is 18223 is to adopt the recommendations of Planning Committee for the same project. So we have a first, we have a second, correct?
Resolution 182-23, sponsored by Henry Comer, a resolution adopting the recommendations of the Planning Commission.
All right, and this is to adopt the recommendations of the Planning Commission for 18123. We've just discussed several of those items with Phase 1 of the project, and it sounds like they've actually gone above and beyond what they were requested to do by the Planning Committee. Even with the PDUD, that does give them a little bit of extra leeway in case during the building or the design, they could go another option with a property. And I think if you're building something of this scale, you should have a little bit of flexibility, especially with the market today, with price of products and goods and services. You should have a little bit of leeway to be able to change a plan and not have to come back and start the whole process all over again. So I think that would be prudent to take it from to a PUD and to follow the recommendations of the Planning Committee for this. Any further questions or discussions for 18223?
Mr. President?
Yes.
So at the last meeting, for those of you unfortunate enough to have to sit through that, I guess, we had a long discussion about water moving through the city. I had a long discussion with the Safety Service Director yesterday. I brought up my concerns. He thought that there was a plan that had been put in place somewhere 2016 or 2016, around there 2017, maybe it's slightly before or after. And he thought maybe there was a plan in place. Now, I asked him before the meeting. He said what that was strictly a flood plan that he's found so far. There might be more documents. I will tell you that I still have a concern, not about these projects so much because they have engineers that engineer the retention ponds. I'm more worried about how does water get from State Route 56 and Park Avenue and Lafayette Street and all of those places. How do we get it through the city? And I think that there's some issues. I would love to have that plan in place. And I think we need to look at that moving forward. I just wanted to let you know that we've had that discussion, and I have no objections to their water plans at this point on either point. I just want to let you know that maybe this is something council should have to look at further in the future.
All right. And good to hear that you don't have any issues with their current plan as we're discussing it. Any further questions for 18223? All right, thank you. I'd like a motion to exit our public hearing.
Make a motion to exit the public hearing.
Second.
All right, first and second to exit the public hearing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
We are exiting our public hearing at 7:19. On to communications and announcements. We do not have any. Audience concerns, we do have a couple here. Let's see here. We have, first we'll begin with Anita Likens.
Sorry. Thank you. Anita Likens, address 157 East First Street. What I wanted to speak to tonight is first a public announcement. What we have at Revive Church, which is about 3 miles away from here at 2245 US 42, What we have on Monday, the 24th at 7 p.m. will be a community information event. So please join us for a meeting hosted by the Madison Right to Life about the upcoming ballot issues. Beth Vanderkoy from Greater Columbus Right to Life will be leading the meeting and providing all the information for the road ahead as far as some of the ballot issues that are coming up. Light refreshments will be served. With that, I wanted to speak a little further on, I have excerpts from a publication that was provided by the Andrew Tobias from Cleveland, Ohio, published July 5th, 2023. So this is nothing new. But a few excerpts, if I may read them, concerning the upcoming Amendment 1. There's some clarifications that I'd like to provide. So how hard is it to amend Ohio's Constitution? Other states do it. We do it. 17 states out of the United States actually allow their citizens to amend the Constitution. So one of the things that is a quick reminder, State Issue 1 would amend the state constitution to require future amendments get a super majority, it's called, of 60% in a statewide vote in order for that constitutional amendment to pass. And that's compared to currently a simple majority of 50%. Council members understand majority rule and how it's great to have a preponderance of votes that are going on versus just 50%. It would also make it harder for potential issues to qualify for the ballot by expanding mandatory signature gathering requirements for amendment campaign. Right now in the state of Ohio, you only need 44 counties to get a few signatures in each of those counties. This amendment would require all 88 counties to actually have some people that want to see this proposal go through. So voting yes on Amendment 1 would approve the change, while voting no would in essence keep the Constitution as it is currently, just with the simple majority of 50%. Ohio is among the 17 U.S. states where citizens can propose constitutional amendments. That is a rarity. That's a privilege for us. And one of the things that to qualify for the ballot, the voters in Ohio must collect a number of the voter signatures equal to 10% of the most recent election for governor. That's only 413,000 votes. And again, as I say, it's just now in 44 counties to get those 413,000 votes, excuse me. So if approved, yes, amendment campaigns under State Issue 1 would have to collect a minimum number of signatures from all 88 Ohio counties. So why do constitutional amendments work and why are they important? We get two ways right now to make a constitutional amendment. One, as I noted, the citizenry of Ohio can do that. And the other one is what's called an initiated statute. That is not used that much in Ohio. That's because constitutional amendments are harder to undo. Any amendment requires a statewide vote, including changes to previously approved amendments. Meanwhile, state lawmakers can change or repeal an initiated statute whenever they want to. That's why constitutional amendments are so important. Campaigns that go through the trouble of bypassing the legislature want to make sure lawmakers don't just immediately undo their work. I thought it would be interesting, 60%. Ooh, is that really that bad? What kinds of proposed amendments have cleared the 60% bar recently? Banning same-sex marriages in 2004, 62%. Moving back deadlines for proposed ballot issues in 2008, 69%. And again, remember, I'm talking, this is the state of Ohio population is saying 60% and more. Creating the Ohio Livestock Care Board, 64%. Ensuring Ohioans have the right to pick their own health care in 2001. Again, citizen-initiated, 66%. Enshrining the Constitution that only citizens can vote in Ohio elections. Wow, what a great idea. That was in 2022. That went with 77% of the state vote. Other things that went through with greater than 60% were creating term limits for state lawmakers and Congress members in 92, repealing a statewide tax on soda in 1994 with 66%, denying bail for dangerous defendants in 1997. That was 72%. Selling bonds to build K through 12 schools and universities, 61%. What I'm saying is 60% voting yes is not going to kill what the state really, citizens of the state really want to do. So I'm saying, for my point, and thank you for my 5 minutes, vote yes on Amendment 1. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have, let's see here. Tommy Boyd.
Good evening. Thomas Boyd, 48 North Union Street, and happy to say officially candidate for mayor. So, finally get to start asking some questions with something that, hey, we're actually waiting for. First couple, sorry I had for Paul over here. We got talking into the ponds, the holding ponds. Something I've been noticing, I don't know if anyone else does, but it's mosquitoes. A lot of them. Is there any way, has anyone walked back and seen those holding ponds at all?
I've seen 'em.
Yeah, you want to address the council, and then
Yeah.
from there, we can
Okay,
spread questions
sorry.
out. Now, I know
But-
that the city does spray for mosquitoes. We
Okay.
have a contract with West Jeff. So I'm sure that
You're-
once that area is developed, that will probably be
I got
sprayed as well.
My bigger thing that I was going to go into was that I didn't see many blue martin houses, many bat houses. And so I was just asking if that would maybe be something that we could possibly look into on just putting out on that property there, seeing if it's something that, you know, even the city could look into investing in. It just was brought up that, hey, that's something that we're talking about right now, and it might be something for us to look into. You know, I hear a little bit of the little squeaks around late at night, but I know that if we increase that amount of just bats, blue martins around the city, we should be combating that mosquito issue a lot without spending any money on it. And so that was just one that I was just seeing if, hey, that might be a possibility for them or not, but that's up to you, I guess, to ask that one. The other part was just going to be asking about getting Kenny to go through there from the school over towards the bowling alley. Would that be something that the developments might be able to help pay with, or would that be something entirely on the city to be putting through?
Well, my question would be, is Kenny
Is it able to go through?
well,
Not
no.
right now.
My question would be, is Kenny owned by the city? Would it be a city street, or is it, personal property owner's job to handle putting
I
in
was
streets
thinking
for a city?
I was thinking we said it was city?
We have easements for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think it would
And-
be a personal property owner's job to put in a street for the city.
Okay, and I mean, but that'd be something we'd be checking out though before we kind of progress that probably, but that's what we have all the traffic studies for.
Well,
So-
I would still think that it's not a personal
Okay.
property owner's job to put a street in for a city.
We gotta make sure we're saving then. But I get you entirely. Kind of going back to what I actually did have for tonight though. I wanted to say one of the first things that I would like to ask is what we've been talking about already. After the new 66 homes are developed and approved, we're up to 1,436 domiciles approved and in process. Just Plain City over at 1,522 homes, or 1,520 is at 4,500 people. So we have a good amount of growth that is already coming our way. And so I would like to ask that after this tonight, we start putting a hold on it. We need to just start seeing some of what we are approving actually being developed. Unfortunately, we did have some delays with getting new plans for the Pulte projects, but it's adding up to where we have all of the projects coming in at once. And so I was just kind of hoping I could say from this point, after we do what we're going to do tonight anyway, we do look into actually slowing down adding more houses in this city until we can start to see what's going to happen from the new developments. So nothing really as far as a question for you, though. All right, our next one. The BPU refused to get a quote or let Aqua conduct their research and are now eager to join the Mid-Ohio Sewer and Water District. I was wondering why. Do we know what the Mid-Ohio Sewer and Water District would offer, charge, or fix for us joining their district, and when? Unfortunately, Mr. Peters isn't here, who kind of brought up, hey, maybe we should sell it to them, but Mr. Langley could possibly fill in our joining.
From our
of-
discussion last time, I don't think that they said they were
This
going
was
to-
Finance
They
Committee.
said they were going to join that.
Finance, it was a large interest, I'll say. I don't know if that will be brought up in our committee reviews, but it's something that I want to get to now. Because if we're looking at saying, hey, we wouldn't allow this company to come in and even do a quote that you guys said, hey, the person came in here, go on ahead. We want to see what you have. We denied that. And so now looking into joining this Mid-Ohio Sewer District, I'd kind of like to know, hey, what's the benefit of it? Why are we jumping at this now? I'll just say, Plain City, with them looking at tapping in, if we have that 1,520 homes coming down through us, just the tap fee is $10 million, $10,640,000. Just right now, Plain City is running around $792 for their sewer rates a year. If we kept that around $750, kept at that 1,520 clients, just from using our new $13 million pipe that we are paying for, we're bringing in an extra $1.2 million a year without them having any growth yet. And so over 10 years, that's an extra $10 million right there also. However, if they get to the growth that they're looking for, up to about 6,000 homes, we're looking at $4.5 million a year for just bringing their waste towards us. I think it is a great financial benefit to London to stay independent at the moment, to figure out how to help Plain City and move that waste from them to us. However, the big issue is if we aren't joining this district, it is being said that the new water plant will be built right outside of town. And so that's my biggest issue. We're saying we don't want this new water treatment plant outside of town, but then we instantly look into joining this district. So hopefully we have some more plans for what they're offering before we progress with any of that. If anything, I'd just say please wait till November 8th to make any decisions. Thank you very much, guys.
Maybe we'll cover some of this later with further later discussions. Let's see here. We do not have any more audience concerns. On to our committee reports. We'll begin with Mr. Eads.
Well, I did attend the finance meeting. We're going to cover most of these things tonight. Few things just to bring up. There's going to be some donations, some fund transfers, and some new ordinances, some new things that we're going to discuss for the first time. I'm glad that we're going to make the or some of these transfers, but I'll talk about that later. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Robinson?
I have nothing.
Okay, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, attended Public Safety Committee meeting on, I've got the wrong one pulled up here, just a minute. Got last month's, we need this month's.
I can move on, Mr.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Hitt, we'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I attended the safety committee meeting, and I'll give the police chief's report that he submitted for that meeting. I'll read through it. They're continuing the hiring process for open officer positions. Applications are accepted until July 21st. There's a delay in the procurement of a new cruiser due to supply chain issues. Cruiser 15 was involved in a crash in May and is repaired. Repairs were delayed due to insurance authorization issues, but it's finally repaired. Car number 17 was heavily damaged in a crash with an impaired driver on July 1st. Officer Areli Revilla was injured and off work. It says she was due back to work on July 10th, so I assume she's back to work now. Ohio State Patrol handled the crash investigation. The London Police Department worked the Strawberry Festival and Cobra Show with no major incidents. They participated in the 4th of July parade. They purchased a new golf cart by trading in an older one and using some donated funds to offset the difference. They received a generous donation from Coughlin Auto for an electric bicycle, and they'll be looking into putting that to use in the near future once training and policy is completed. And the Madison County Sheriff's Office also received a donated bicycle. They're continuing to see some benefits from the flock safety camera system. Officers were able to solve a hit and skip crash as a result of using the system and identifying a suspect vehicle. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stahl?
I attended the finance, and as they said, we'll be dealing with a lot of that soon, and also the safety, and I have the fire department. Departmental EMS training, participated in medical planning for mass gatherings, Madison Health. Departmental fire training, pump operations and ladder placements, completed several CPR and fire safety classes. They participated in the Cobra Show and the Strawberry Festival events, participated in Independence Day and Strawberry Festival parades, completed annual self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA test, completed hose testing, participated in Church of the Nazarene Block Party. They completed fireworks inspections, performed fire safety inspections for both fair and Strawberry Festival vendors, participated in several fair events to date. And an update, they awarded the Ohio Department of Public Safety Training and Equipment Grant, $755.10 reimbursement. This grant is for training or equipment. Awarded an FEMA assistance to firefighters grant, $102,861.90. Our match is $5,143.10. That grant is for diesel exhaust removal system for both stations. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, back to Mr. Hayes.
Okay. Can't get them to come up on the computer, so I took some notes. The June minutes were approved. You've heard Chief Eads' report. You've heard Chief Nichols' report. Under Safety Service Director, there's a situation going on with the grass cutting. We need to have an ordinance changing the height of the grass from 10 to hopefully 6 inches. It's a matter of time consideration because by the time that he gets the letter sent out, we get a rain, the grass has gone from 10 to 14, 16, 17 inches in some cases. So that is on the agenda for tonight. Under new business, we had nothing. Under old business, we had nothing. We adjourned at 5:23. Next safety meeting will be August the 8th at 2023 in the conference room. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, on to our city official reports. Do you have anything to report, Rex? Nothing? Okay. Nothing else here? Okay. All right, on to our old business. Ordinance 15122, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, could you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 151-22, sponsored by Rich Hayes, and ordinance amending official zoning map.
Yes, this has to do with the Heath property, Pulte Builders. We want to rezone this from R3 to PUD. Pulte has come in and they've changed a few things, and I'll run over these just a little bit. Density is the same, 236 home sites to 235 in the current site plan. Lot configurations, 48 lots, be 60-foot lots. Previous plan had 65. They've been the same location. 187, 50-foot lots. Previous plan had 171. The 60-foot lots located on site plan will be backing up to existing homes. Open space was increased from 20% to 24%. Basically, that's 14 acres to 17.6 acres. The High Street entrance was moved due to the wetlands, and the way it was moved now, it will align right across the street with Sharp Street. Multi-use paths will be concrete where it is in front of the homes, not asphalt. And I believe we have a Pulte representative here with us tonight. If you'd like to add some things.
Good evening, council members. Jim Hills with Pulte Homes. I really don't have anything to add from what we discussed at the last meeting. I do have Greg Chillog, our land planner, with us, Kevin Kirshner, our civil engineer, and Tom Hart, our zoning attorney. So we're more than happy to answer any questions that any of you have with regard to our proposal. Thank you.
Any questions for him? All right.
I make a motion to,
I do have questions before you move on.
okay.
Not for Mr. Hills. However, Councilman Peters and I both agreed to leave it on. We thought we should leave it on at the last meeting to give people a chance if they wanted to respond or show up today. I've not received any contacts about this. I just want to make sure no one else has any objections or received any contacts.
No, I have not received any information, contacts, or anything except their new plans, which actually are new and improved and better than they were before we received them last time.
Okay.
Okay, technically, this is this first reading or second
No.
reading?
Neither.
Neither,
This is
okay.
Like the
20th.
Okay, I'll make a motion to suspend three reading
No,
rule.
no, to
No.
accept, to adopt.
To adopt, okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
And then we need a second. Second. All right. Clerk, could you please take the roll call for adoption?
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right. 15122 has been approved. And that is good to hear that we have even more growth in the city of London, and we have all this interest in our city all of a sudden. So, I would like to see as much growth in the city as I can. It seems like we're, pretty warm right now. I'd say the iron's hot, and you would definitely like to strike while the iron's hot, and you would not want to put a halt to any progress that you see going on, especially since we haven't experienced this type of growth in the city of London in my recent history. So it's amazing. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for your patience, and I think you have a great product there. I'm glad you're coming to the city. I appreciate it very much. Glad to have you.
Thanks for your patience as we work through this.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. All right, one for our third reading, ordinance 18123. Motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 181-23, sponsored by Henry Comer, and ordinance amending official zoning map.
Okay, and this we just discussed here in our public hearing. And this would be to change the area from an R1 to a PUD for London Landing. And this is our third reading on this. Let's see here. Do we have an emergency on that? Was there an emergency on that? I don't, let's see.
No emergency.
Mr. Hills, hang tight 1 second, will you?
Right, there was no emergency on that. Any further discussion on 18123?
Well, I asked Mr. Hills to hang on for a minute because I wanted him to hear me say this, and that is, there's obviously a difference between how Pulte's done this and how Arbor and Mr. Gross has done that. And I think that's some of the complaints that we've heard in that Pulte put a stop to it last year. They discovered a problem, and they put a stop to it, and we left it on for an awful long time. And then their plans are already in place that show the 6 retention ponds, not 1 or 2 with more to be added later. There's just a difference. I just want to let you know I appreciate that all came in that way, and it was just a little easier for us to decipher some of that. So I wanted to thank you for that.
And I'd like to comment on that. I think that the project took just a little bit longer because there were different different things in play that could not be addressed simply. I think if the issues that they had could have been addressed simply, then it would not have taken as long to get everything approved. So I think that we would be looking at, and I think we are, looking at a similar situation as we are with London Landing. It's just that some of the issues that they had, they won't have to face. So, and those were totally out of their control. So they had to wait until they could work those issues out. So it's not so that they put so much more time into it because they came up with an issue. They had different issues that needed to be addressed. So it would have went through just as any other process would have gone. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, so let's see here. Just a moment. And this does not have an emergency clause on it, so we can vote on this. All right. A motion to
Make a motion to adopt?
Second.
first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Stoll,
Yes.
Councilman Hitt,
Yes.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Robinson,
Abstain.
Councilman Eads.
Yes.
All right. 18123 has been adopted. On to Resolution 18223, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 182-23, sponsored by Henry Comer, a resolution adopting the recommendations of the Planning Commission.
Okay, and this just allows us to adopt the recommendations of the Planning Commission. They've put a lot of time and effort into their thoughts and planning for this, and they've approved this. And they sent it along to us because they think that it's a quality product and it's something that they stand behind. So what are our wishes here?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a comment. I
Okay.
have to say, I have to agree with former Councilman Cavey about the Planning Commission. Maybe they should be here. Maybe they should be here to address these questions that we have. We have a document from them, but that's all we have, and we've had additional questions, and I think it would have been appropriate to have them here. And if they felt that there were any other further questions, maybe they would suggest that they put this on hold. I will say at this point, I don't think anything that we've discussed tonight, I don't think anything, pardon me?
I'm
I-
on planning.
Rex is
so
on
ask
Planning
away.
Commission. And go ahead,
I mean, you're also the Safety Service Director.
but he's on
I've
Planning
got my
Commission.
Planning hat on, go ahead.
Hey, Rex, can you check your mic?
Well, they can hear me. Turn your hearing aid up, Chris.
No, I just think that the Planning Commission, when we have this much feedback that we have, and I know, and I don't go to the Planning Commission, you do, Rex, obviously, you're on that committee. I just think maybe they could have been addressed as that. I know you're wearing a different hat right now because you're going to address it. But I see the need for that, so I have to say I agree with that.
I will tell you that there was probably 20 more people here at planning addressing issues that, or maybe more. Elizabeth, what do you say? Yeah, 20 or more. So, and we addressed every one of those issues in the motion that we made and passed to look at all the conditions that was brought before planning. If council wishes planning to attend, it is not the norm for planning to come to these meetings.
No.
If you want them to come, you should invite them prior to the meeting. You've got an obligation according to the code that you're supposed to have the public hearing and you're supposed to act within 30 days. That was what was going to happen with Pulte, except they asked you not to vote because they had an issue and it was held off. According to our ordinances, that's the guidance that's given. Planning has a guidance that we have so many days to act upon their petition and to have a public hearing, which we did. Then it also states that council is to have a 30-day to get their public hearing notice out and have a public hearing and act upon it in that same fashion.
Right.
So all we're doing is following the guidelines that's spelled out in our code.
Right.
But I'll be more than happy to ask any question. I mean, did you stay for the whole, Elizabeth, did you stay for the whole meeting, that planning meeting? How long was it? 2.5 hours? It was well vetted.
Right.
Very well vetted. We had numerous people. We had maybe one or two that was supportive, but the rest of them had issues, right? And the issues that were brought forth were traffic, which we addressed in our motion that was passed by planning, entering and exiting the complex, which was in our motion that was passed by planning, and flooding, which is, again, was in our motion from planning. We tried to appease the developer in trying to give him an opportunity to keep his, the company, building company here so they can keep him in London, to keep him moving, but also give us time and give them time to meet all the requirements to expand beyond the 66 homes, or I think, that we granted.
Right.
I don't think the flooding issue was addressed.
If you could come to the microphone, please, so we could hear you on the recording. Thank you.
I don't think the flooding issue was clearly discussed long enough and clear enough for people's satisfaction in the answers of the total planning. I think people were just kind of, in the dark. I don't think it was clear enough to the public.
However,
Of
I
the
think
crowd.
we've discussed it at length here, and we've even heard from an actual engineer that comes up with the plans that reassured us that even the drainage is very meticulously calculated, and it would not be approved by the planning commission if they did not approve of that engineer plan, and it's checked and rechecked and checked again. So we've discussed it at length here.
And the flooding issue was in the motion, Elizabeth. We said that there has to be a thorough flood plan reviewed and presented to planning to go beyond the number of homes that we've agreed to.
Right, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I'm just stating what my opinion was of that meeting.
And also too, with the flooding, I've seen the plan, and I think they have made even more or larger retention ponds than was required. So they've done even above what was requested.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions there, Mr. Eads, for
No, it's.
Planning Commission
what-
representative?
Well, it was a little confusing when we first seen this, which is why I made the comment the planning commission could come and explain, because we have 5 parts. Really, the only parts that mattered for this were the 66 home and an R1 to a PUD. That's the only thing. The rest of that was for future reference, and that was a little confusing. So based on that, I don't have any objections to this tonight, because I believe the R1 to a PUD, I think that's been addressed. I think with everything else, with the roads and the water, that has to be addressed
Phase
moving
2.
forward.
Right, with phase 2.
For phase 2,
Right.
that's this tonight, not 3 and 4, or however many phases
Right.
there are after this.
After that, they were going to do some additional studies as far as traffic and things like that.
Right.
Move for adoption.
I'll second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Abstain.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right, 18223 has been adopted. On to our new business, Resolution 18423, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 184-23, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
This and 185, both, the Cobra Club's very generous to the City of London. They've donated $6,500 to the fire department and the police department, I believe. 184 is the fire department, if I'm not mistaken. I went past that page now.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fire department. So there's $6,500 donation from the fire department. This is not an emergency. However, I don't see any reason why we could not suspend the rules.
Second.
All right.
We'll take that as a motion.
We'll take that as a motion. So we have a first and a second. Clerk, please take the roll call for suspension.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk,
I'm sorry,
please.
who was the second?
Second, Mr. Hayes. Okay. Please take the roll call for adoption.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right. Resolution 18523, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
All right, you guys are moving fast. Resolution 185-23, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution increasing appropriations.
Same deal, $6,500 for the police department. Thanks for the donation to the Cobra Club. This is not an emergency, but I hereby do move to suspend the rules.
Second.
And nobody should have a stroke when I do this.
First and second to suspend. Clerk, please take the roll call.
I missed the second.
It was Mr.
Stahl, okay.
What was it?
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right. Resolution 18623, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 186-23, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution increasing appropriations.
I can take this.
Okay,
Since I'm on finance. There's asking for an increase of appropriations of $26,800 and so many dollars, whatever that exact number is. I haven't pulled that up yet.
863,
There you go.
34 cents.
It's in the ordinance. There we go. Let's see, that's 182. Anyway, the LETF fund, if you don't know what that is the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. That money is generated through seizures and also through joint task force activities, of which money may be given back to the police department. The money can only be used for law enforcement purposes. We have discussed the police department upgrading their weapons since last year. They would like to get this done so they can get this ordered this year. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Nope. Then
Any
I'm,
questions?
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You got it.
I like when you do it.
You like when I move to suspend the rules? I so move to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
On to Resolution 18723, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 187-23, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution increasing appropriations.
I got this one too.
Yes.
You want me to take it? I can do that.
All right.
So, when Safety Service Director Castle was on council, and probably times before that, there was these funds that had money that we don't use. And it just is there, so we've questioned this again. We asked the auditor if she would research this. This is an old fire fund, which was actually generated when we were still collecting property taxes for the fire department, which we no longer do. This is the money that was left over in the fund. We now have word and authorization that this can be spent now, so the funds must be appropriated so that the fire department can use this to help pay their salaries. The amount's $26,722.46.
All right, any questions or discussion?
Let's move to suspend the three reading rule.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
First and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Resolution 18823, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 188-23, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution authorizing the auditor to increase appropriations and transfer funds.
So same situation, there's $95,177.71 that's left in the Kenny Boulevard Extension Fund. We still have debt on this, but that money was sitting in this fund that couldn't be used until we've got permission to do so. We're going to transfer the funds over and put those in the fund to make the debt payment moving forward.
All right, and that is $95,177.71.
Yep, there is not an emergency clause on this. However, we can I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Resolution 189-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 189-23, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution decreasing appropriations.
Again, that's mine. Okay, so at the beginning of the year or last year, the budget, there was $200,000 set into the budget in case the London courts were going to be built. We've determined that's not happening this year. This is $200,000 that we are going to decrease that appropriation with this piece, and with the next piece, we're going to put that into the fire fund to shore them up a little bit. This is not an emergency. They're not in dire straits right now. We have time to let this roll if we want. However, if you want to suspend the rules, we can do that too.
And we can get it
Make a
moving.
motion to suspend the three reading rule.
Second.
And that's $200,000.
$200,000.
First and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Resolution 190-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 190-23, sponsored by Greg Eads, a resolution authorizing the auditor to transfer funds.
So this goes with 189-23. We're now taking it, we decreased that, and we're going to transfer that into the fire department for use if needed later this year. Once again, there's not an emergency, I don't believe.
No, there is not.
There we go.
Move to suspend.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right, 1-2. Resolution 191-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 191-23, sponsored by Josh Peters, a resolution assessing the costs of the demolition of the building.
I'll take it.
All right,
Number 8. 5 Stewart Avenue was caught on fire last year. No insurance on the property. It was a hazard. Earlier this year, in Resolution 119-23, we authorized up to $49,000 to demolish the property. However, the actual cost came in at $10,350. Because the city has paid for this, we'll now put a lien against the property on their property taxes, and if the property is sold, the city will be reimbursed their money. Is that right, Rex? Very good.
Is there emergency?
There is.
yes, sir.
And there is an emergency clause.
Move to suspend.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Oh, I was bouncing around.
That's okay. They're all
Councilman
still here.
Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right.
Must have had you on my mind. I'm
You
sorry.
can do that. Keep us awake.
Yeah.
Keep us going.
On to ordinance 192-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 192-23, sponsored by Rich Hayes, an ordinance for strengths of job descriptions.
Yes, this has to do with the water department. This ordinance would bring up to, there would be actually 9 altogether. There would be a superintendent, and there would be and I don't have the title in front of me. Foreman, there we go. And then we would have 7 operators, and that would be it. The water operators, water system operators, not to exceed 7.
Okay, so to increase the strength ordinance, anyone, are there any questions?
Just a clarification,
Yes.
if I may. So currently, I think we have, that's split like 3 and 4. So we would be limited to only 3 water operators and 4 assistants. However, this just gives us the flexibility to up to 7 of either of those.
Right.
Any questions? I'd make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on it.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 193-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 193-23, sponsored by John Stahl, an ordinance amending section 1496 of the codified ordinances.
This and the next one will both deal with grass. Currently, I think it's 10 or 12.
10.
10, and they want to decrease it down to 6 inches.
All right, so this is the fees that we're going to or the ordinance for our lawn service. Go ahead.
This is,
This was brought to me by our code enforcer,
Mm.
and his problem is, even though council has made good changes in expediting the process of getting these properties mowed, he's still witnessing that the time that it takes, once he sees a property reach the height of 10 inches, and then we give them their notice, sending it through certified mail, wait, go back and recheck the property, then contact the mowing service to go out and give us an estimate for bid. That's the process we go through. They get back and give us an estimate. If it's reasonable, we tell them, go ahead and mow it. By the time they get done, they have to go in with a bush hog. They mow it. Now, it's no longer an unsightly 10-inch high grass. Now it's an unsightly hayfield laying out in somebody's yard next to a nicely groomed yard. He would like to get that down so that by the time they get to mow it, it will probably be closer to the 8 to 10 inches and still be manageable to be mowed and look halfway decent. Again, I want to reiterate, this is not for the normal property owner. These are the sites that he routinely is checking, the habitual people that do not mow their properties. Those are the ones he's going to go after. If he sees somebody that, they've been sick and they didn't get their yard mowed and it's been heavily raining and it's up to 6 inches and he knows they usually mow it, he's going to give them a little bit more time and then he'll go back and check it and make sure they get it mowed. And then also in the process, in council-approved legislation, we do a notice one time. After that, we mow right away. So it'll even make it easier to get those yards, repeat offenders mowed, and get them done quicker and look a little nicer for the neighbors that's next door. And he said 6 or 8, and he referenced other municipalities, West Jeff that's nearby. He said their code is at 6 inches also. So that's why we went with 6.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
So I heard this was going to take place. I wasn't part of that meeting. We did change our process last year, so the first time it takes a little time, but after that, we don't have to go through the same process. We haven't even given that a full year to work before we want to change this. When I heard about this, I hadn't mowed my lawn for 7 days. I went out and measured my lawn, and I had grass that was 7 inches tall in parts. Now, my complaint with this is that you're saying it's not for the normal property owner. However, if someone wants to be a grass Nazi, if I've got 7 inches of grass, I could also be put in the same situation. I think we need to let this ordinance go as it was from last year, and let's see if the process works any better this year.
Well, I think what Mr. Gassel just said.
I
yeah.
would say that this has been ongoing since the end of April. I would say that Mr. Hume has had plenty of opportunity to see how this works. And I haven't necessarily saw what he's talking about, but after he mentioned it to me, I noticed some of the other properties. And they are pretty unsightly after they get them finished mowing. If you're uncomfortable with 6 inches, you can adopt it and make it 8. I don't care. It's just I'd like to get it a little bit lower so that we don't have this tall hayfield look in houses next door to people that keep their lawns halfway decent groomed. And I probably would have turned you in, Greg. I'm sorry if I still live.
Well, and what you also said was, what you also said was, Mr. Hume is familiar with the properties who usually do not cut their grass. So, if it's 6 inches, you're someone that usually cuts your grass, I'm sure he's going to give you a little bit longer to get that cut because he knows you usually cut it, versus the properties that just are not going to cut the grass.
And typically, he's visiting these sites on a routine basis.
Mhm.
We do, like Greg says, we do get people to call and, report them, say, hey, this grass is too tall, I think you need to go check it out. I then, or whoever gets that phone call, we forward it to Mr. Hume. Mr. Hume puts it on his schedule. If you're a person that normally mows your grass like you do, Greg, by the time it gets to the code enforcer, he gets there,
It's
I'm sure
already
you would have
cut.
had it mowed. And I agree. I'm taking care of my mom's house that she's got up for sale, and due to meetings and rain, I went over the other day and I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to have to send myself a letter. So you do get those times, but you get it done. You get it done.
Right.
It's like the field across the street from where I live, where the Kenny Road Apartments we're going to go. That grass in there, it's a field. I mean, it's probably 16, 18 inches high right now, maybe more, and it needs to be cut. And the sidewalk's the same way. I mean, it's right next to Chamber of Commerce, and that don't look good for the city.
Any
And
further
he does,
discussion?
once he gets his notice, that property owner does go and mow it. He sent me an email today, I got it mowed. Well, if we get it down to where he gets his notice sooner, it'll maybe look a little nicer when he gets it mowed. He's waiting on us to let him know, because he doesn't live there, he doesn't see it, so he's kind of waiting on us to let him know when it gets mowed.
Yes. Yes, please.
Anita Likens, 157 East First Street. Just had a quick question as to these notices that are going out. I live on a street that has many rental properties. Does it go to the tenant or does it go to the property owner, these notices?
Yes, Mr. Gassel.
Good question. It currently goes to the property owner, which may be completely out of state. We have the next item on the agenda, amends 660, and it's going to change and give the code enforcer the authority to send it by mail and post on the property. So that way the tenant would also get a copy of it.
Very-
Right now, our rules and regulations state that it's to be mailed to the property owner. So we have that in there. He wanted that changed also.
Okay.
And thank you for that, because I'm thinking it is the assessment that's going to go to the property, which is the property owner, but some of these units, the tenant is responsible for mowing, and it's not always grass and beautiful waving grain, across America. A lot of time it's just buckhorns and grass, and they get to be very, very tall, and it is unsightly. So I was just trying to figure out, without being a bad neighbor, who's getting these notices and how does it work when the tenant isn't able or doesn't or is too busy to appropriately take care of these properties. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, so are there wishes here?
I'd make a motion to, with what I see, I'd make a motion to suspend the 3-reading rule on it.
Okay,
Second.
second. First and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
No.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right, so
No.
it did not pass suspension, so we'll leave that on.
Do what?
It did not pass, we needed 5. He said no. For,
Thought you
to
need
suspend, we
4
need
for-
5. To suspend. Yeah. So we'll leave that.
Oh, you're right.
Yep,
That's
we'll
when
we'll
we
leave.
have 6, it's 5 and 1.
Yeah, we'll leave that on then. Okay, on to ordinance 9423, motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 194-23, sponsored by John Stahl, and ordinance amending section 660 of the Codified Ordinances.
This goes right along with the other one.
Okay, so we want to leave that on as well?
Well, but this changes it only so that we can leave a notice.
Yes.
But it also references 6 and
6,
It does
yep,
say so.
they go together.
So I'd leave it on.
Yep, so we'll leave that on as well, or unless there's further discussion on this. Okay, we'll leave that on. On to ordinance 19523, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the ordinance.
Ordinance 195-23, sponsored by Josh Peters, and ordinance approving and authorizing the execution and delivery of a community reinvestment area agreement and declaring an emergency.
You want me to take that?
Yes, please, since Josh is not here.
You're on
You
top
have that
of
with
things
him.
tonight.
Well, so the old hotel, 137 South Main Street, is being purchased by the same gentleman that bought the other properties downtown that they're giving a facelift right now. He would like to convert that, put 3 storefronts in the bottom, and convert the hotel to the apartments upstairs. He's asking for an abatement so that he only has to pay the property tax as it currently is. No increases, and he's asking for, and I didn't pull that up, I think that's 10-year or 15?
I think it's 15.
Yeah,
15.
I think he's asking for a 15-year abatement on that.
And I think
Yes,
when-
100% abatement for 15 years for the increase.
Right. And
Go ahead.
this is a good prime case of, we can see what he's been doing. I think he's beautified a lot of buildings in town, and they've been working a lot on those, and this property needs a lot of help.
Yeah, and these are definitely properties that have been on our list for a long time, a lot of years, that need some attention.
Personally, I think 15 years is an awful long time for this abatement. He's going to have, he says in the document that he expects to have this work done within the next 2 years. We would again continue on with an abatement for the next 13 years.
Isn't that what we gave him last time?
Did we give him 15 years last time?
Yeah.
I think, I thought it was 15. Yeah,
I thought it was
so-
15.
Okay.
But that was to keep it at the same amount,
that's
and
what
just
this-
not to change with the,
Right.
with the
Right.
improvements.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
wouldn't receive
he
zero.
he said he made the deal, he made the CRA the same as what he did on the other properties. And I think in his email, he stipulated that the processing of buying the properties is contingent on the CRA being passed,
Like last time.
like he did last time. He wants to be able to have that in place so that once he buys it, he can start working on it immediately.
All right. So similar to the deal that they have just approved through us, just adding another property to that. So
Basically, yeah.
we have any further discussion?
There is an emergency clause on this.
Yeah, he'd like to get some.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hipp?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hipp?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
1-2, Resolution 19623, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 196-23, sponsored by Henry Comer, a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of London, Ohio, to apply for an Ohio EPA water supply revolving loan account, WSRLA, on behalf of the city of London for upgrades to the East High Street, added a word, water plant, designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan and declaring emergency.
Okay, so this continues with some of the good work we've done here in the city, and this evening, we do have Mr. Leilonic, and I know we have discussed this at lots of hours and time put into this. This is a very huge project, which is key to our city to continue growth. So-
Before Mr. Lalonick starts,
Yes,
I've got a
Mr.
point of order.
Yeah.
This is for the clerk more than anything. At the finance meeting, Mr. Lalonick was pretty sure this was for North Main Street, and Mr. Castle thought it was for this project. And we, I think in our minutes, indicated it was for North Main Street, and that's what we approved to move on to council, was the North Main Street project. However, it is actually the East High Street project. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr.
Okay.
Eads, yes, and my apologies to the Finance Committee. There is no defense to that error, other than
I'm not saying there's an error, I'm just saying we need to correct our minutes.
we need to correct the minutes, but I do want to apologize. We have many, many projects going on simultaneously, so I think this conversation will shed a little light on how we streamline some of those things and help our Board of Public Utilities navigate these waters, so. And thank you, Mr. President, for your kind words and
Thank you.
and your support as always. This particular application, and let me just go ahead and, we've covered this many, many, many times, but I'll just go ahead and reconfirm that in January, after almost a year of hard work, we finally were able to approve the rate increases to handle our infrastructure improvement. We have almost $18 million of infrastructure improvement within water and wastewater, desperately needed for the city as it is, to accommodate growth, to accommodate the residents that we already have. And it's vital for any municipality to continue to upgrade. So a tremendous amount of work and effort and understanding on your behalf and effort on all of your behalf. So this particular piece of legislation allows the mayor to sign an application with Ohio EPA for a loan to improve the water treatment facility, which everybody knows on High Street is still not functioning. We work on it every single day. We have a lot of assistance from the county at a pro bono situation. Very, very pleased with our relationship with them. We are in the process of well development. We have a lot of moving parts to that particular project. This piece of legislation just allows the mayor to apply for funding, does not allow anybody to enter into a contract. So once that is approved and we know what the dollar amount is, we will come back and go through the process to have that amount approved.
Any questions for Mr. Leilani?
Is there a deadline on this, Steve?
end of July, I think.
August 1st.
There is a deadline, Mr. Eads, yes. So,
And that deadline's not January 24th of 2025.
It's August
So
1st.
it's coming up.
no,
Okay.
it is coming up. We have to reach the window that the EPA allows us. So, you know, approving this just allows the mayor to apply for the loan, okay? And that does not allow the BPU or administration to obtain the loan, just to apply.
And that deadline of August 1st, that's for the next one, correct?
August 1st is, yeah, for the next one too. We do have a deadline for this,
that
which is why we
Right.
need that, yes.
All right, so any further questions for 19623?
Does this have a dollar amount too?
It does not.
Okay, because we discussed a dollar amount at the meeting, but that was for a different project.
And Greg, we have the High Street water replacement project going on simultaneously right now too, which is the confusion. There's a lot of balls up in the air at the moment, okay?
Yeah.
Can I just throw something at
Yes.
These kind of things throw me for a loop whenever, but the EPA basically is saying, I want to know about your project, and I need to know the council's behind it. And then they're going to approve, okay, you can apply for a loan, basically is what they're saying. This project is qualifiable for a loan.
Right.
So they do things a little bit different. Where you normally apply for a loan, they're just basically saying, this project is something that would qualify for a loan. Now go out and get bids and see how much it's going to cost.
All right,
So that's what causes the confusion.
okay. Any further discussion? All right, what are wishes here?
Move to suspend.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 19723, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 197-23, sponsored by Rich Hayes. A resolution authorizing the Board of Public Utilities to enter into contract for professional services.
This resolution would allow BPU to enter into a contract with Madison County to run the water department, which would save us an enormous amount of money. And from what you've seen it here, the pages, what all they will be doing, there's like 30-some steps. I won't go into all of them, but you all have them in front of you. Hopefully you've read them. Mr. Long, would you like to speak on this one?
Finding good help is a challenge these days, more so than previous years. We've had a change in the department for the last 6 months with our superintendent position. We have posted that position. We've interviewed candidates. We did not get the caliber of candidate that we were looking for to lead the water department through these infrastructure improvements and into the next 5, 6, 10 years. In the interim, we've had Mr. Long do double duty with the street department and the water department, and we thank him continuously. I don't know how he does it, and he doesn't sleep, but we appreciate that. But after the interviews, we were given a proposal by the county, now Mid-Ohio, because the county did regionalize with Plain City and formed Mid-Ohio. We were given an agreement to have the Mid-Ohio act as the water superintendent. When we reviewed with the BPU everything that they could do for us, all of their licensed operators all of their experience, headed by a gentleman by the name of Tom Taylor, who's been in water and wastewater since 1976. And then we looked at the cost savings. It was a no-brainer, non-issue. As I stated, the City of London has developed a wonderful working relationship with Madison County over the past 5 or 6 years. The Board of Public Utilities has developed probably a stronger relationship with the county, and I don't want to continue to reiterate that the county had installed a master meter on State Route 38, that interconnect for the water system. That was installed late last year. They're installing at their own expense another interconnect on State Route 56, all in an effort to help the city and municipalities in the county. So we've got a wonderful working relationship. This agreement just makes perfect sense for us for many reasons, not only the cost savings, the experience level, but because we're going through $18 million of infrastructure improvements over the next 36 months, that expertise is going to be invaluable, okay? We've got a lot of experience in the city here, but I can assure you that none of us have the experience that the collective forces with Mid-Ohio has. It just makes perfect sense. Their contract would be for a $96,000 annual tab. The simple fact that we were paying our superintendent with all the costs associated with that, retirement, et cetera, well over that. Entering into this contract will save $24,482 a year. So we're not only saving money, we're winning with all of the experience that they can provide us. So we would like not only the favor of you council to buy into what the BPU has studied for a long time now, but also to pass it. We would like to get them started in August, please.
And am I correct, nobody will be losing their jobs with the City of London, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any
You're not
questions?
going to then fill a vacant position?
Yeah, the superintendent that Bill has been running, he's been acting double duty, and he's been acting superintendent. This will fill that role.
But you won't be filling that with our own employees moving forward because of this contract?
Because of this, this is a 36-month contract. It does have a severability clause agreeable by both parties. I don't personally mind the 36-month because, Greg, our infrastructure is going to take that long, okay, for everything. Not exclusive to the water department, but just all in general.
Do we have any Class 1? What's it take to be the superintendent? Is it a Class 1?
It's Class 2. It's Class 2.
Okay. Do we have any Class 2 operators at this point?
We do. We have the previous superintendent
Who has?
who has stepped down.
Right. Is that our only Class 2 operator?
Bill, yeah. Feel free to jump up here, Bill, if you'd like. And I can tell you, Councilman Eads, that since Bill has taken on that responsibility, he has encouraged everybody, even purchased manuals for them to study and get their classification. It is the goal to develop our people in all of our departments. So this is not the fact that they can't elevate themselves or they don't have a future in the water department. It's just this superintendent position at the moment makes perfect sense for us to outsource it just because of the issues that I told you about previously.
And I think that is the 36-month clause in there, and you can sever that contract at any time. But like you said, it's going to take about that long to complete some of the projects that we have going, and it would be good to have the same supervisor throughout that whole process.
Mr. President, yes, we couldn't agree more with that. It just makes sense. So it's not a situation we're not trying to promote our people. It's doing what's best for the city, particularly at this juncture right now. It's a critical juncture.
And it's not one person.
It is
Did you indicate that they have
Mid-Ohio.
a staff of 4?
No. Mid-Ohio, right now, I don't know what their FTE is, Greg. They have 4 licensed 2 operators. They have the folks who were running Plain City Water Department. They have a operator that was down in Plains or Mount Sterling. I believe that they have committed, and Bill, don't let me speak out of turn here. The gentleman who's running Mount Sterling, they have identified to come and be the full-time person here, but that is interchangeable. You get everybody with them. So it is with Mid-Ohio. Tom Taylor is the gentleman that will report directly to me, who oversees all of that. And so, you know, I'm not looking at one individual. I'm looking at a complement, a department of folks. And Bill, if I'm not speaking correctly, please let me know. Okay.
That was a little hard to hear with the fan behind me, but, okay, thank you.
And after the first 36 months, 3 years, after the first 3-year period, be on a yearly basis, renewed automatically, as I believe I read in the account.
It's up for renewal, yes, Mr. Hayes, after 36 months.
Okay.
So the initial contract you have in front of you is for 36 months.
Okay.
So Mr. Long stated that they have a group of people that, and they can interchange those people to work 4 10-hour days to cover 40-hour shift. And they also have people that can work on the weekends if we need coverage on the weekends. Did I leave anything out? Thank you.
Mr. Lilonic, you stated you want to develop your employees. So if we have a Class 1 that gets its Class 2, would you be willing at that point to then exercise the severability clause?
Well, anything's up for discussion, Mr. Eads. If a Class 1 becomes a Class 2, are they going to possess management experience, okay, to lead a department of 6? Are they going to have the infrastructure knowledge and experience to assist with the present infrastructure improvements? So I'm going to say that anything is something we'll entertain, but I'm also thinking that I don't see that happening within the first 36 months because of the infrastructure that we have going on. I think it's going to take that amount of time, but anything's possible.
But I do think that with the current experience that we have with Mid-Ohio, it would be really good if we do have some of our current employees to become level 2? Class 2, and work along with the Mid-Ohio to gain that experience and gain that knowledge as they go. So possibly in 36 months, that may be something that we could look at once they get more knowledge, more experience under their belt to handle the magnitude of the projects that we have coming.
Yeah, Mr. President, you're absolutely correct, but I can assure you the fact that they're helping us now pro bono. They are sending people to stay at the East High Water Plant all day, in testing. They're there to help and assist and develop.
Right.
That's exactly what they're there to do.
And that's a good price.
It is.
All right, any further discussion or questions?
I make a motion to suspend the 3-reading rule on this.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads?
Yes.
Councilman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes.
Councilman Stahl?
Yes.
All right. On to Resolution 198-23, a motion to read by title or number.
So moved.
Second.
All right, clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution 198-23, sponsored by Henry Comer. A resolution authorizing the Board of Public Utilities to enter into contract for obtaining easements for sanitary sewer infrastructure.
All right, Mr. Leilanic, this is another topic we've had a lot of discussion on, and, you know, the thing that really stuck out in my mind about this project is that they've had several, heads of their company or their department in the past, like, in the recent future, and, you know, this is something that doesn't come up that often, to be able to get this easement, and it's no cost to us, correct?
Not necessarily true,
In
Mr. President.
denominational costs,
yes,
kind of
yes.
services and
Yeah.
goods.
So, thank you. And before I begin this last one, let me state publicly that this is the most pleasant experience I've had in front of you all in a couple of years. So thank you, thank you. And let's keep the trend going, okay? The infrastructure improvement for wastewater. We had an engineer in January from Burgess Nyepel who won our bid. Mr. John Schwartzball gave the presentation about the location and the whole dynamic about that east side trunk sewer, okay? We also know that that's a very, very expensive project, but we also know that, okay, it was necessary. We were out of sanitary sewer capacity for that northeast side of town, okay? Particularly Amherst, and that whole system was just severely congested. We had to do something, okay? So this system here takes the load off of that, allows for more infrastructure growth, improvement, allows for less taxation on the infield, if you will, of our sanitary sewer system. The trunk sewer line extends on MTB properties, okay? MTB owns several thousand acres in the county, but they own the very valuable piece of real estate where we need to put that trunk sewer in, okay? And that's in between 42, right past Eagleton, all the way over to 142 by Spring Valley and High Street, okay? So we needed to get an easement. That's the biggest part of the easement that we needed to get. So we've been in negotiations with the ownership of MTB. They've been very pleasant to work with, but also they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's. We had an agreement, a verbal agreement with one of the principals of the company when we started the engineering process. There was a shift in management of the company midstream that we were very concerned that we might have, you know, missed our opportunity to put this thing in place. The new management in place has agreed to work with us. We've been working since January on this particular agreement, okay? It's been a long, arduous road to get to this point. As a matter of fact, you know, the final exhibit was not complete until noon today, and that after that was done, a copy of this was sent out to everybody here. Basically, the company is allowing an easement through all of their properties, or the property in question, if you will, okay, for this sewer project. They are asking for approximately $66,000 in TAP consideration, okay? It's not usage fees, it's TAP consideration. And according to our engineer and our engineering firm, that's usual and customary, okay? They wanted more initially. We went back and said, hey, this is what everybody else in the country is paying, and they agreed to that. So they are working with us. Since this took so long, we entered into a memorandum of understanding that we couldn't miss soil boring before those fields were planted. And so we went ahead and decided that we were in a good enough position with their agreement and their memorandum of understanding. We'll go ahead and pull that trigger. What that means is that, you know, the clock starts ticking on the infrastructure improvement. So I would venture that we're 260, 270 into the project right now, just with that soil boring, okay? It's okay. It was a decision that everybody made based on our compatibility, if you will, to get this project done, okay? They, in turn, have spent tens of thousands of dollars on legal fees putting this together. I mean, just constant changes, and it's been a long, arduous project, like I stated. So here we are today. Here we are today. We've got it. We got the final. It's been approved by City Legal Counsel. It's been approved by our engineering legal department. It's been approved by their legal department, okay? We are ready to go. The caveat is that the company has asked for this to be approved on an emergency basis. They stated several things, but they stated that they knew we all knew it was coming, okay? Secondly is the present management is not certain that they will be there for any extended period of time, okay? Thirdly, everybody's heard about the county purchasing the property beside the golf course as a proposed wastewater treatment facility. It's something that we've adamantly opposed. Council doesn't want that. Administration doesn't want that. BPU doesn't want that. I have met with the commissioners in public several times and expressed the fact that that can't be there. London cannot be locked in with wastewater treatment plant on the south side of town and then a new regional wastewater treatment plant on the north end of town. It's just not something that is conducive to the city of London, its residents, or future growth. So this trunk line is part of an answer to avoiding that happening, okay? And yeah, I can explain more in detail, but that's just another reason that we need to get this thing approved. I talked to the principal today. He apologized again about the last minute, but stated that they had so many people looking at it just to make sure that it was correct. And the only problem is that it has to be executed by August 1st, which means it has to be approved this evening. I asked what happens if it doesn't get approved, and the answer I got was that the situation may change entirely. So nobody wants to have the situation change, and I don't understand or know what that means. I did not delve into it because this is all we were waiting on for the last 7 months. Whatever the motivation is with the company that wants to give us this easement here, that's not my concern. My concern is that this took a lot of work. It's what we needed. I need to have it approved.
And this is part of our large project, and we were waiting for this. This is something that we had huge discussion on. We didn't think they would give us an easement, so.
Well, we were concerned.
Yeah.
Mr. President, we were
At the
concerned.
price.
We were hoping, but you know, there's always concern when you're asking for such a, you know, they're giving up 6 acres for an easement. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot for a company, you know, and they're showing they're a good partner to the community, and you know, now they want some consideration too, but it's a small concession, and yes, they may develop that themselves, and this is going to assist them. However, it's a win-win.
So this has got to be done by August 1st. If something would blow up, we'd have to start this whole process all over again, maybe?
We would.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the clause here, and it specifically spells it out.
very specific, and for me to get the phone call today, for the two reasons, okay? That he did apologize for this, arriving just today. But secondly is that he was under a very strict deadline. I don't know what that means. And like I said before, that doesn't matter to me. There's nothing that changes this. This is what we were waiting on.
Right.
Mr. President?
Yes.
If I may. First of all, Mr. Lalonick, I think you guys have done great work. What I don't like is that we're being held under the gun. I don't think that their present management should be our concern. I don't think the wastewater plant north of London should be our concern when it comes to this. I don't think that has anything to do with this. I don't like we got a document today at noon that I haven't had a chance to review. I'm being asked to pass this tonight without having a chance to look at that. I'm not happy about that at all. It almost comes down to the old statement, failure to plan on your part does not cause an emergency on mine. But this is causing an emergency for this council that we have to pass tonight. I'll trust your judgment that it's a good deal. I can't be happy about the process at this point. I also, and just because we had a longer discussion about this, I pointed out or asked if this is, what are we giving away here that we haven't done before? Mr. Long pointed out that we have done this for other property owners before. I don't remember who, but he said that we have done that.
Mr. Long? Yeah, if you could use the microphone, that way we can hear you, thanks.
We have 60 people watching.
So the extension of the LCI line, which was done in 86
Okay.
that was done by tap fees. We gave taps away to extend that across to the state property. Sonny Davison got taps. I believe the Gossards did. So we have did.
All that land that's just north of London.
Yes.
Is it Marynell Lane or something like
Mary
that?
Lou Drive.
Mary Lou Drive.
Mary Lou Lane.
Was that the only one that you know of? You remember?
No, I'm trying to remember now. I believe when the trunk line for the school was done, I believe there was some then. But they were set, there was a time limit on them, some of them, to be used. If they weren't used, they didn't transfer properties. It just depends on how the agreements were wrote up.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Eads, I appreciate your comments, and I understand, and thank you for your consideration. It's not my intent to present in this emergency fashion. The facts are what they are. I also appreciate your belief in me and my work on this for a long period of time. I believe in our law director who's reviewed this and has given her seal of approval on the agreement. Also, the agreement that you were given in finance last Monday has not changed. That has stayed in principle. What has changed is the exhibits, and they were just completed. As you recall, that the agreement was without exhibits, okay? So that was very, very important that you vote on that with everything today. So thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Any additional discussion or questions on 19823? Huge part of our growth that we've been waiting on. Huge part.
I'll make the motion to suspend the three reading rule.
Second.
All right, first and second for suspension. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads,
If I say no, it doesn't move on, we're coming back for a special meeting and I'm going to get outvoted. So in that case, even though I may not be happy, I'll say yes.
Councilman Robinson,
Yes.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Hitt,
Yes.
Councilman Stahl,
Yes, move to adopt.
Second.
All right, first and second for adoption. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Councilman Eads,
Yes.
Councilman Robinson,
Yes.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilman Hitt,
Yes.
Councilman Stahl.
Yes.
All right, 19823 has been adopted. All right, on to our round table, or Go ahead, Mr. Leilani, you have something?
I appreciate you all.
We appreciate
thank you for all the work.
Thank you for all the
Hey,
work
we're
you
all in
do.
this together. I appreciate that. In light of time, I can address Mr. Boyd's comments earlier if you would like.
Yes, because we have people watching and that will watch later who may be interested in finding out the answers to those questions directly from you.
I don't rightfully remember every point of context, but the topic of regionalization did come up during the Finance Committee, which Councilman Eads and Councilman Stahl were at, and brought up by Councilman Peters. And, okay, that opened up the door for conversation, and regionalization is no new concept. We've been in conversations with municipalities in Madison County for 3.5 years, with Plain City, with West Jeff, the county, Mount Sterling, London. Exploratory meetings. Hey, there are areas around the country that, regionalize for whatever reason. 9 times out of 10, it's the economies of scale. It makes more sense, you use common equipment, and you've got the culmination of varying degrees of knowledge, and it makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of regions in the United States and around the world, for that matter. Municipalities, Columbus uses a region, Grove City, you name it. So it makes sense for London to at least hear what the conversation is, okay? So earlier this year, Madison County and Plain City started that regionalization. It's called Mid-Ohio. It formulated out of Plain City's necessity to get some assistance with their wastewater and water issues. And so, we're watching, we're having conversations, and we'll continue to watch. Might it make sense for London to join a region? Hey, it might, and there are a lot of compelling arguments for that. At this point, we're fact-finding, and we're open to conversation. So there's no decision, there's nothing that's been made along those lines, other than the fact that the region has been formed and we're keeping an eye out, okay? Personally, I think that it may be a great direction for London to go, okay? But let's just, slow down a little bit. There's been nothing at all as far as more than observation and conversation, okay? So to address the Aqua situation, we did vet Aqua. We talked to other municipalities and we talked to employees of Aqua, okay? They are a region, they're a service provider. They're not anywhere near Madison County or London. And to entertain giving your assets to a company that has no vested interest other than being a service provider, after we did the vetting of the company, was not a direction we decided we wanted to go, okay? There's one thing very, very important with a local regionalization, like a county-wide regionalization, the fact that London is the county seat and we have more residents than any other municipality. If London was to consider joining, London has 2 board seats on that region. And so there's vested interest from the city to make sure that we have our voices heard, okay, our wishes heard. So hence, we're no longer interested in entertaining a quote from Aqua or doing any further due diligence. We are keeping the conversation, and we're listening, and we're observing the Mid-Ohio, okay? So that's all there is to it, okay?
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging out this late.
Yeah.
All right, on to our round table. Give Mr. Eads.
Two quick things. First thing, I had checked with the chief also, just to say what Councilman Hitt said. Officer Areli Rivella was in the accident. She was off work for 10 days. She is back to work now. I just checked with them today because I was curious about that. They are down 2 cruisers, as you mentioned. We ordered. We don't have anything yet. Second thing, I have been an advocate for a long time about the pedestrian crosswalks. I keep bringing it up because they're putting them up. I went and tried one out yesterday, and I hadn't done that yet. So I decided to try that out, and I was happy with the way it worked. I'm very pleased with that. I'm glad it worked. However, it wasn't very busy last night when I was on my walk, right? So, but today, I watched a young lady push the button and cross, and there must have been 12 cars that came to a stop between 2 directions. They stopped both ways. They let her cross, and I couldn't be more thankful that that young lady could get across the street.
Amen.
That's awesome.
I have nothing.
Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Eads,
Sir?
what did you take before you came to the meeting tonight?
Water?
Water?
I didn't
Hey.
eat dinner.
I love you, brother. I want to thank all city employees for jobs well done. It's a great meeting tonight. I think we jumped a lot of hurdles tonight. I want to thank all my council members. It's been a long meeting. I want to thank everybody who came out tonight, expressed their issues, interest. Downtown streets, we need to get a lot of weeds removed from the downtown streets before the Rib and Jazz Fest. Corner of High and Main, it looks atrocious, and I just see a lot of weeds, so if we can take care of that, if we don't have the manpower, call me, and I'll come do it myself. What else do I have? I want to thank my 2 safety meeting members here. They saved me a lot of work. They do a good job. Thank God for them. Just want to thank the Lord for watching over us, taking care of London. I do believe He watches over this city. And I think He watches over our people. And if you think about tonight, you might drop on your knees and just give the Lord a little bit of praise and a little bit of thank you. That's all I got.
All right, Mr. Hitt.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone that was here, providing a lot of information. It was useful to hear and helpful in making decisions about the various legislation tonight. Glad London's moving forward and making a lot of positive moves for the community. Next safety meeting is August 8th,
August 8th at 5
5 o'clock in the meeting room over here.
All right,
That's it.
Mr. Stahl.
I'd also like to thank everybody for their input. It's fascinating, all the different things people come up with. And we've made a lot of progress this year. I think more than I can ever remember happening with infrastructure. I think the tip of the iceberg as far as growing the way things are going, which is great news. And I like the idea of regionalization. I think it's going to save everybody more in the long run. It'll take a while to figure out. And I think that's about all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, I am, excited to see all the new growth that's coming to London, all the different departments working together and getting lots of things done through council. We're covering things and tackling things that have been pushed down the road for years and years. So I'm glad to see, everyone working really hard and doing all their research, coming to committee meetings and everything to help to further the progress that London is experiencing, since everyone is really interested in the city of London. And Mr. Hayes, last meeting, he mentioned that he spoke with Mr. Carey's office and they had approved some funds for us. Well, I spoke with their office and they confirmed that there's been $5 million approved for our police department. to begin building a new police station. They said it just needs to go through a final approval, but they're pretty confident about that. And they're so confident that it's supposed to be on Channel 10 soon, where they're going to
It's on
announce
this
that.
evening.
And when is it?
It was on this evening.
It was on this evening. So, and they've also put out a lot of information online, and they've expressed it. And there's also another $1 million that we got as well for
Mid-Ohio.
for Mid-Ohio.
That was for the county.
That's for the county. So within London and Madison County, that is $6 million that the state is appropriating. So we're really getting noticed out here. And like I've said before, growth is inevitable. Whether we want the growth or not, it's coming. So I'm glad to see that others are investing in our city and they see the same things in it that we see. So, you know, my thing would be is we need to see and work as hard as we can, and I'm not sure where it's going to come from or how it's going to work out in the end once those funds are finally approved, but we'll need additional funds to go along with those. I think that if the state comes to you with a gift of $5 million, which is about 40 to 41% of the total cost of your project, you may want to do everything that you can to make sure that you can come up with the other part of that, to make sure that you can see that plan to actually materialize in the city. So that's awesome. And, you know, I'm sure there's other cities that would have been happy to have received that news, but we did. So I think we should capitalize on that and take that to the fullest extent that we can.
Isn't that,
Yeah.
isn't that actually the U.S. federal government?
Yeah, the 5 million is U.S. federal
So
government.
U.S. federal
Yeah.
government.
Right.
not
I
even
think
the state.
you misspoke.
Yeah,
We
not
need to
state,
go back,
federal
we
government.
need to go back to the state and get the other.
Yeah, so that's even, that's even better. Thanks for expanding on that, so, but either way, we need to see what we need to do to get the rest of the dollars, because I think the project is about 12 million for the new police station, and, you know, I've said before, I'm not a criminal, but I can get out of that one. So we definitely need a new police department, so kudos to them.
Hey, congratulations, I think goes to, turn that on.
It's on.
It wasn't, yeah, that one. Congratulations goes to the city, and you, both of you, because I know that you've worked diligently. I know Chief Nickel filled out a bunch of paperwork, and he worked very diligently to get this money. And it's, you know, it's great that the money's come available, so I want to thank everybody who was involved. I wasn't involved, but I admire the work that you guys have all done.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I met with them quite a while ago, and they said, what would you like to see done in the city? I said, a police station and our water plant. So, wow, I'm just, thankful that they actually heard that. And I really, give a kudos to Mike Carey, because he represents us here, and he actually will come to the city, and he actually cares about the city. So I haven't, others have come and, said this or that, but he genuinely cares, and I like that. He's personal about that, and he's really
Good
cares
man.
about London.
Good man.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
You should let Brian.